So let's move to some of the bulkheads. And I'm going to turn off the hull curves there. So we'll start with just one as an example here. We'll mesh the bulkheads first. And again, we'd use the contour command and would set a C point center line going out, 1 meter spacing to match what we had on the deck. And then vertically, we know this is at 2 meters. Well, there is no 7 meter deck here, but then there is one at 12 and so forth. So we'll use a 1 meter vertical spacing, and I can just right click to re-execute the contour command. Again, 0, 0, and click straight up, 1 meter spacing. Those points on the deck, this deck should be exactly at 12 meters back aft, but up forward we have shear, so that would be something we may need to address. But we know, that these nodes happen to be exactly on the deck, so I'm not going to bother deleting these nodes and extracting the nodes from the deck to replace them, because I know they're going to be on the exact same spot. What I will do, however, is extract the hull nodes, because we don't have nodes on the hull right now for those. I'm going to delete this one because it's so close to the hull. And we'll check down in the bottom here. Those look like they're far enough away. So now if we turn on our hull mesh, and well, I have the nodes for the mesh that would be created there, so we'll use them. And this is why ideally we would have finished the hull, because we'd use the hull nodes to create the outer edge of our bulkheads. But we have enough of the nodes created that we should be okay to at least demonstrate this. And we do something very similar to what we did before. We extract the nodes. We are building this bulkhead. So I unselect one point so I could find it in this view, and I will deselect that column and hit delete. And now we have all of the nodes on that bulkhead that will tie it into the side shell, and we know those other nodes happen to be on the deck, so we should be in good shape. If I select curves, we'll leave that one there for now, but I'm going to delete the bulkhead curves here. Select all of these nodes, 248 points, create our mesh, and convert to quads. Delete all of the upper nodes. We still need some of those for creating and select the hull nodes in case we wanted to make that mesh. But you can see we have to manually create a couple of these. Now, if we turn the surfaces back on, where it's getting close to the side shell here, you may not want that stiffener to come in and approach the side shell like that. You'd probably cap it off with a small intercostal here. But we have a little kink headed down to the side shell, so we can turn on these points. And we can do this now, or we can do it later when the beams were extracted. In fact, when I made the other hull earlier today, I extracted all the beams first, and then went in and made some minor corrections. And to do that, it's exactly the same process as here. You turn on the control points, you grab the nodes that you want to relocate, set point Z, and then I grab the hull node. So I've got a stiffener on the hull here, and I would have a vertical stiffener here, and I would simply have an intercostal coming across, and then this outer stiffener would just end at that horizontal stiffener. Here, I'm only working on the mesh. This afternoon, I had the beam traces already extracted, but our beam traces have to use the same nodes as the mesh. So I just selected all of those beam traces, the curves, as well as the bulkhead mesh, and turned on the control points for all of them. And I selected the control points for both when I relocated. So it kept everything in sync. And if we want, we can do this minor cleanup to get rid of some of those tries and convert them to quads. So creating the bulkheads is pretty straightforward. And in fact, you can do them in bulk by selecting a whole bunch of them. We do the contour command. Transversely, again, vertically, and that same operation that we use to build this bulkhead, we just do on all of the others. For interior bulkheads where we're not dealing with that curved side shell, they're much easier actually to create. So I do all three of these at the moment, but to make it a little easier, I'm going to select all of the points, and to make them easier to select later, I'm going to group them and hide them so that now I can grab these three bulkheads, use the contour command, and again, do 1 meter in the X direction, 0, 0, go vertically, 1 meter in the Z direction. And we have all of the points for bulkheads. So I'm going to just select these points and make our first one. All the points, and I'll deselect all of the curves with a crossing window. Make that one and do the same thing here. Select our meshes, convert to quads, and now we have all of our longitudinal bulkheads there. The operation that we did to create the transverse bulkhead, I did the exact same thing to create these two bulkheads with the longitudinal traces. Essentially, we did the contour command longitudinally, contour command vertically to create all those points. And then I extracted the hull mesh to create that bottom border. It's essentially the exact same thing we did for the transverse bulkheads, just in the other direction. Now for a smaller bulkhead like this one, it may not be worth cutting all those curves. We turn the decks back on so we can see the spacing on the deck, and we'll turn off the surfaces. So we just need to get from this to the side shell. So it is this row of points here. So I can take that row of points and just say copy, and actually let me unselect the curve. I only wanted the points. And I'll copy from the bottom node to the adjacent deck nodes. I take the side shell and extract points. It's in this column, so I'll unselect the bottom node there and look for it over here. Unselect that column. And now I can grab all of these points. Now I'll make sure I get rid of that line, so it's just a collection of points. And then we do the mesh patch again. So sometimes it's easier to just grab the points. Now, this also shows another issue where this bulkhead is not on an even 1 meter spacing to agree with our deck. So we need to cut that in so we don't have a free edge at the bottom here. So there's a couple ways of doing that. One, we can go and use the split mesh edge command, and that would let us pick this edge, and then we can split it and work our way down and keep splitting each one along the length. Or I'm going to select all the points and get rid of them here so we can kind of start fresh with this. Another way of doing this is, let's do this on the upper deck. It's a little easier to see. So we can see where that bulkhead hits and where we need to split this mesh. So if I extract points and want to keep it's around that split plus one more, and I'll delete the rest. And if we select that mesh, extract points, and I just want to keep the ones on the top, we can come in here and delete the existing deck mesh. Or actually an easier way of doing that, instead of doing the selection and what I just did before, I'm going to select all these points, get rid of them. And instead of deleting or extracting the points and everything, let's extract this mesh. This is the mesh that I want to split. So I'm just going to select all of the ones that need to be split, plus one at the end, because it's going to turn into a quad and a tri. And once it's extracted, then I can extract points, and I only have the points that I want. And I can delete the mesh. I come in and I grab that bulkhead mesh and extract the points from it and just keep. And now I can select all of these points, create a mesh patch, vertical quads, and join it into my deck. So that's a nice, quick, easy way of filling that space. And I did the join. Let me again, so that now when I select those points with a window, only getting the points, leaving them. So now I have a point-to-point connection with the bulkhead, and I would do the same thing on the deck below, as well as the vertical bulkhead back here. So that's basically how we would generate the mesh in here.